game, our first series of the day, which is LNG versus RA. We don't have a huge amount of time because of the mid-split awards, so we're just going to focus on one player in particular, and that player is Hong.
Yeah, I really think this matchup is going to come down to the support difference, and Hong has you covered on Rare Adam's side. He has been one of the best engaging supports that we've seen throughout the entire split, and for the Ear of the Ox, Alistar is his champion. Just look at this WQ combo. He butts the Renekton out of the teamfight, gets the stun onto the AD carry, and sets up for a beautiful Shurima shuffle. He's been doing this all the time. Great on catches, super underrated. I really want to highlight this player just because of how low he's been on everyone else's radar. They just don't seem to see him coming in these teamfights at all. And plus, his numbers throughout the vision score has been absolutely immaculate. He actually has the most vision put down per minute out of anyone in the LPL, and for his team, the vision difference is at second. So this is a guy that really allows Rare Adam to snowball quite heavily once they find the lead.
Yeah, and honestly, it's the unsung kind of hero of teams is that support role. You're not flashy, you're not really going to be getting the kills, you're just the guy who sets up the rest of your team for success. And for Hong, that's exactly what he's been doing.
Exactly, you know, and I think it's really fitting as we're going into the Ear of the Ox that Hong's best champion is going to be on this Alistar as well. So you know what they say, you have to grab the bull by its horns and create your own destiny. We think that's going to be a super contested pick coming into this matchup. Here we see the entirety of the Rare Adam lineup right here. Pretty interesting facts that I have for you. iBoy still has not been able to pick Samira. It has been 100% ban rate against him.
Yeah, honestly, it feels like it's something that you just have to keep away from him at all times. And a team we didn't really get to talk about, and we'll talk about a little bit now, is LNG. LNG, they've had a pretty decent start to the split. They were very turbulent, I suppose, would be the answer to how people perceived they would be coming into this. But Tarzan's look pretty good. They've had a pretty decent start with Light and Iwandi getting some pop-off performances. And Icon doesn't look as bad as he did last year. It sounds really like a backhanded compliment, but he did look terrible last year, and honestly, I didn't really expect much from him coming into the season. They've come together, it's definitely worked out for them, and it feels like this team could make waves longer into the season.
Yeah, and they're doing it with a very unique macro style. This is a team that has the highest first tower rate in the LPL at 71%. They're really built around sieging down the first tower, getting maximum use of that Herald. And because of that style, we also see Tristana be the most banned champion away from LNG. You never want her to snowball with that E ability and just taking those towers so quickly.
And for these two teams, it is pretty much a mid-table clash. You've got LNG sitting at 4-2. You got Rare Adam sitting at 3-3. So a win for Rare Adam here puts them on par with a better head-to-head against LNG on 4-3.
True.
But a win for LNG puts them actually into the fourth place. Puts them on 5-2 ahead of Team WE.
And LNG definitely could be a team that sort of challenges the upper echelons. I think they have the talent in mid-jungle positions, but I'm a little bit worried about generally looking at their top laner and sort of their support positions. That's where I feel like they don't really measure up to the EDGs, the JD Gamings, or the FPXs of the league just yet. However, they have been kind of covering up their weaknesses with this very deliberate style early game. They actually play a pretty slow game. They have the fewest champion kills per minute out of any team in the LPL. They're very much focused on just sieging and efficiency and all of that. So we're going to see, I think, two teams that actually have pretty different styles compared to each other.
Yep, and it feels like this could be a pivotal decision. Again, we have 10 playoff spots. A hell of a lot of people can get into playoffs, but depending on where you enter in could be the difference between making a decent run and being knocked out within the first weekend. So those positions between, say, 10th and 6th could be the biggest differentiator between, you know, how your postseason goes.
Definitely is the case. And for Rare Adam, I think this is a team that you're looking at as a much more skirmish-heavy team. I think they love the Zoe first pick coming in for Fofo. They have a lot of faith in him. And also iBoy has been this beast in his own lane. He's actually been doing incredibly well, even though he still has a lot of mishaps here and there. Him and Lillian are kind of like the sort of the unhinged ones of the LPL, I would say. They can go off at any time and just blow up in your face, but when they're on point, they look really, really fantastic. Rare Atom is definitely one of those teams that I would say that is actually has a very, very high ceiling in terms of their overall talent. However, they're just a little bit more messy compared to the best of the LPL teams out there.
And something I want to, there's a great point you mentioned, I want to kind of tangent off a little bit. And Leyen is one of those players who, against not as, high caliber talent, seems to overperform. But against the top tier or the upper echelon of jungle talent, seems to kind of falter a little bit. Today will be a fantastic test for him to see, is he worth putting up into that kind of, A tier, A plus tier, not quite S tier, rank of junglers, or will he always be kind of, B plus that turns into an A minus every now and again? Because I feel like Tarzan's had a fantastic split so far, and Leyen, he's had moments of absolute brilliance.
Yeah, and Leyen is super interesting in that this split, he's actually the second highest ranked player in the LPL for a while in the jungler role. So that's the reason that Rare Atom brought him back into the roster. And I think in his individual early game performance, he definitely deserves the slot. He's been doing very, very well in his own pathing. He has a great GD score, actually has a pretty good first blood percentage as well. But where I'm really worried about Leyen and where I think you see a lot of his problems compared to the upper echelon of junglers is his team fighting communication. This guy will just fly into the backline and just die. He has no regards for the rest of his team, and there's a lot of times where Rare Atom actually just throws away their entire tempo because of that. So that's what really brings him down a peg, but his early game definitely is going to be a very interesting matchup against Tarzan, who I think plays in a very different way. Tarzan is, if you look at his heat map, he basically only picks up kills and tower dives. He is super high up on efficiency. He basically farms until he sees an opening for a guaranteed kill. He relies a lot on his laners to get most of the kill job done actually for him, and then he just goes in and kind of sweeps up the remaining pieces. So they're quite different in their approaches to this jungling position.
Well, we can see now the jungler's only gotten one ban here in the first 6. You see Pantheon, Zoe, Syndra, a lot of respect being given over to Fofo here by LNG. And then RA giving a lot of respect to Makuya, who's had actually some pretty decent pop-off performances with the likes of the Renekton and the Gnar. Kai'Sa was the final ban there for Rare Atom, which means Olaf is sitting pretty, left open. You are going to 100% take that for Tarzan.
So Rare Atom are already setting up to punish their top lane. They know that LNG doesn't really like to play around top lane, and Makuya actually gets some of the least resources out of any top laner in the LPL. What Rare Atom doing is that they're banning away safe blind pick top lane options, and they're on red side with the counter pick for top lane as the last pick. So this is a very deliberate strategy right here. They are setting up themselves to play probably a pretty slow bottom side and just try to focus and tunnel in on punishing Makuya to the maximum.
Looking to try and punish him as much as possible. We can see the Aphelios Thresh locked in for the bot lane of iBoy and Hong, and it's a pretty common standard kind of setup right now. It is something that's just incredibly safe, and once you get to those, 3-4 items kind of team fights, the Aphelios is still the Aphelios. He's still going to be able to shred through your team, so it gives you that late game insurance. However, it does have that caveat of the early game you can be punished.
It is a bit of a slow early game, but what we've seen from most of the LPL games right now is that you cannot hope to scale alongside the Aphelios. The Aphelios will eventually outscale you into the late game. He's just too hard to kill with GA, Bloodthirster, and usually the Mikhails coming in from the support. It's just near impossible to actually win a team fight against Aphelios when Thresh also has those supportive items going in. So I think what LNG have to do right now is they really have to think about if they want to play the scaling game against Aphelios. Typically it has not gone well, even with split pushing picks so far. So I actually want to see LNG kind of pivot around and try to play more of an aggressive early game, at least in their bot, to give themselves a fighting chance. Just don't try to outscale Aphelios.
Yeah, it feels like it's always a losing battle, and Leyen is picking up his Udyr. Now, this is something that I wanted to talk to you just before we jump into the other picks that LNG picked up. The Udyr got a triple kill in a very, very chaotic and almost I don't want to say meta-defining, but it felt meta-defining because it showed exactly to the world, and we've seen it across all the different regions, what a level 3 full clear at 3 minutes Udyr can do. If you do not ward in that bot side to be prepared for him coming down, you will die, and that is a massive advantage. And we're seeing it a lot more, that bot lanes will just ward super early into that brush or into the river just to make sure they're not caught out by it. So Leon had a fantastic game on that, has almost changed how people perceive Udyr. I wonder if he can have the same kind of level of performance in this game.
It's definitely true that you have to pay a lot more attention if you're playing against the blue side. The blue side clear has more experience located there. If you go the route from, some junglers even start Raptors at this point, red Raptors into Krugs, you hit level 3, you go into the bot lane super quickly, and with something like Udyr, you can definitely tear it up. I think it's less viable coming from a red side Udyr overall. You don't really see those same level 3 ganks coming in from the blue buff side of the map necessarily, but I totally agree with your point. Like, if you get Udyr in an early skirmish, he will just carry the game for you. And you have to be super careful, not about just thinking about the first kill, but also the fact that Udyr is very adept at cleaning up early skirmishes. Now, I do want to mention what LNG are doing here. This is what I wanted to see. I don't think you want to play the scaling game against the Aphelios, so they're actually going to something that's uber aggressive, coming in here and taking the Kalista, plus a very interesting Jarvan support pick. We have seen this in the past as a sort of AP pick, but let's be honest, we haven't seen it this split whatsoever, and I'm really curious how this one's going to work out.
So this is something we've seen a couple of times. We saw it in the LEC. It's been picked up in LCK quite a bit as well. You take Airy onto the Jarvan, and you actually have a huge amount of burst at level 2. You can actually go in super hard. If Iwandi is proficient with the EQ flash combination, it's a guaranteed stun knock up onto someone like that. And the pressure that you garner with someone like a Kalista is just huge in that early game. You combo that with an Olaf, that's a volatile bot lane if you ever get caught out. So iBoy and Hong are going to have to be on their toes if they want to try and keep this one, but there is absolutely no AP damage here unless Cube decides to go full AP Gragas, which I don't think he will, as Fofo locks in the Lucian against the Azir.
I think Rare Adam have a pretty interesting team comp as well. They have a skirmish core of the Lucian and the Udyr, and I think they're just going to use that priority to make sure that however far ahead the Kalista and Jarvan can be, they also always have to be aware of the Lucian and Udyr just coming into their bot lane. So I kind of like the idea that they're throwing out here. It's basically priority and counter picks in the mid and jungle to sort of make sure that their bot lane of the Aphelios can grow up and can develop into that late game monster that they need him to be.
All right, well, this is, like I said, this top of before we went into picks and bans, a big match for both of these teams. LNG looking to cement themselves as a solid playoff contender, and RA looking to climb up that ladder, get themselves as high a position as possible. They can equal out the LNG record of 4-3 if they take a win today, but 5-2 is an awfully lucrative offer here for LNG on the table, and I feel like both teams have very clear definitive win conditions, and both teams are going to be looking towards those to try and get this win as we jump onto the Rift. But looking straight away, I'm going to talk to you, Clement, straight off this now. What is an early game success for LNG given the bot lane and jungle that they have?
So I think what you're looking at is definitely to try and get kills on the Aphelios. That's going to be the #1 priority. You have a lot of great tools for that. Olaf is known as a bot lane ganking jungler in the LPL, and Kalista is always super aggro or early levels. So I think that's the main game plan, is just to make sure that, hey, iBoy doesn't get too far ahead of the curve. And if you can keep iBoy down and behind, then you have good split pushing options, you have good engage options coming in from the Camille as well. The comp kind of runs itself based on that point. But I think RA's composition is a little bit more interesting. Usually we think about team comps as matching power spikes, but RA's composition actually doesn't function that way. They're using their early game power spike of Udyr and Lucian, and these two champions that fall off very hard in the late game, to actually cover for Aphelios and make sure that they can still have a point in the late game to fight around. So it's a combo that I don't really like in terms of drafting, just covering, just having staggered power spikes. But if they can make this work out, if they can actually use the strength of Lucian and Udyr to accelerate Aphelios through skirmishes, then maybe they can have a very explosive game and try to close out LNG early.
Yeah, and this is something that I suppose everyone kind of talks about, Aphelios being a late game champion, needs to get towards those items. We saw last night in G2 versus Fnatic, no spoilers about whichever one saw it, but they took a 20-minute Baron with the Aphelios just having the right gun combination, having the right vision control, because he was able to get ahead. If you are able to find that advantage, you are able to absolutely 100% accelerate and snowball your lead. It becomes incredibly difficult to get on top of him because of the safety that we've seen with Thresh, and we're seeing a lot of the time that people won't even ban the Aphelios. They'll just ban the Thresh because it doesn't really work with a lot of other champions. The Thresh just gives you so much early game support and so much early game safety that it just becomes very difficult for you to kind of justify an Aphelios pick without that. It's kind of a situation where it's not equal to the one is not equal to itself without the other. It's kind of a weird kind of disparity between the two champions.
And we have seen that a lot in the LPL as well. The Severin Crescendum combo and just taking down legendary objectives is really, really fast, and a lot of teams have been using that. If they're out of vision, then they can easily sneak a 3-man Baron to kind of accelerate the game past that point. So I think we are going to see maybe that come into effect between this game, but overall, LNG should be expected to play a lot through their bottom side, try to keep this Aphelios down. I think their top side of the map is much more scaling oriented in the Camille and the Azir, while on the other hand, Rare Adam will be coming down into the bot lane too, but the way they're going to do it is going to be a little bit different. They're not going to be coming through the strength of the bot lane itself, but they're going to be coming out of the priority that they should have off of the Lucian and the Udyr pick.
We'll have to wait and see where they go. But ladies and gentlemen, we do apologize for the delay. There seems to be a slight issue when getting into it. You can see the players just trying to keep as stoic and focused as possible. Once we get an update, we will let you know as soon as. Of course, we want to get into the game as quick as you guys do, and we do apologize. League Ops is working as best they can to try and get us in there. It looks to me like there might have been a slight issue with loading into the game, so it's most likely going to be a redo of the exact same picks and bans as they go into the game. Just take a little bit while to reset up, and again, we do apologize for the delay. Let's take this moment to talk about the season so far and how these two teams rank up. For LNG, I feel like for them, they've always been kind of like a low-tier playoff team. And for them, I would love to see them make a little bit of a deep run into the playoffs. And for anyone who doesn't know, we have 10 teams in our playoffs. It's 2 King of the Hill side brackets that then lead into a top 4 double elimination. It's very, very convoluted. There's a hell of a lot of games to get through for us. And 12 series in total. It's a lot. It's a lot of games. But it does offer itself to, or lend itself to be able to set up a much better, a miracle run for a team. If you get in, you had a bad rough start to the season, but then you start to pick up steam at the late game stage, you could just sneak in a 10 and actually get into that kind of, playoff mentality.
It's definitely possible, and for me, LNG, when I did my preseason rankings, I had them around the 9th to 10th spot. And honestly, they have overshot my expectations by quite a bit. I wasn't so sure about Icon coming in onto the roster, how he would feel like. And I also didn't think too highly of their bottom lane and their new top laner. I felt like this was a team that was really, really reliant on mid-jungle, and that they would try to leverage the skirmishing potential of Icon and Tarzan together to kind of push this team forward. However, what I got was a completely different team. This was a team that actually plays very, very measured. They have a good macro play game. They're willing to play slow, and they know what they're doing. Icon, in interviews, he's really said that, hey, it feels so nice playing with Tarzan. He knows exactly what I want. And just looking at his champion pool, it's so different from his previous splits. He's willing to just sit mid and play these control mages and use his talent in ways that aren't super risky. So it's great to see the transformation of LNG and especially Icon, and I'm honestly just surprised by how well this roster has panned out.
Yeah, I think a lot of us had very big kind of unanswered questions. Obviously, Icon's been in the league for quite a while, has always been touted as a very decent mid laner, but in recent years we had really not seen it that much, and great to see him kind of coming back to some kind of decent form for him. Just an update, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else in between. There is a issue, or there was an issue, of in-game issue reported by Light. The investigation is happening right now, so they're seeing if they do need to try and change anything. We don't know if we're going to get the same picks or bans. We don't know if they have to swap out the PC. Once we get that information, of course, we will relay that to you. And I just saw, I think it was a Pokemon Pikachu mouse mat there. It looked very cute. A very arbitrary question. Mouse mat's going to come out. Have you seen Upsets, Fnatic Upsets mouse mat? Have you seen the size of it? It covers, like, he literally needs like a desk for himself because it covers about like 2 meters. It's a huge mouse mat. They literally, there was an interview, I believe, with Whippo or Selfmade. They literally was like, "Oh no, man, I need you to move over because I need another table to put this entire mouse mat." That feels a bit egregious.
Yeah, that's super interesting because usually League of Legends players, they play at a much higher DPI compared to like FPS players, so they don't really need to use that much desk space. Like, this is something that I constantly been studying to find like the perfect setup for my mouse and like my mouse pad and all of these things. But you know, an isometric game like League of Legends, the players usually play very differently to like CSGO, where they have to or Valorant, where they have to swing around their arms and control the mouse and do really wild turns. Most of the pro players, they actually play on you know, like something like 800 effective DPI. It's much higher than most FPS titles, and you don't really need to move your hands around that much. So you know, you're getting me really curious on how Upset kind of controls his champion.
Yeah, I'd love to see the full setup of that. I myself just have like a pretty standard looking one. It's just like, you know, gives me to move. I kind of just move to talk about it, but I feel like the 2v2 up on that top side, as much as we focus onto the bot lane, the 2v2 top side is going to be so powerful if you can get that Camille and Tarzan, you know, the Camille and Olaf combination going on top of this Gragas. Cube needs to be very respectful of that because the all-in potential is there, and he needs to be making sure that he's not giving away free kills.
Yeah, but I think Cube, honestly, we've seen a lot of times this Gragas is just such a great pacifier in the top lane. He actually wins out against the Camille for most of the early levels, is what we've seen these trades come down, and I just don't see Rare Adam really spending a lot of time into that top side of the map. They essentially are running double AP with the Udyr and Gragas, so probably not going to pay a lot of visits over there. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, we have some extensive trading going down.
Yeah, they're going in straight away on top of iBoy. He's forced to flash and heal. And this is what we talked about, the early lane pressure you get with a Jarvan Kalista bot lane. And now you have no summoners onto the Jarvan, yes, but you also have no summoners onto your Aphelios. He needs to be so careful. Flash in, and Light picks up the early kill. First blood to LNG.
Yeah, that was really well done. Just the amount of damage coming out from that one was super unexpected, and especially the trade coming in from Iwandi. You know, I think we do have to talk about this Jarvan support a little bit more. We did see Jarvan support being popularized in LCK. It actually popped up in the previous split from Light, and he usually does go a little bit of an AP build. We have seen a lot of Moonstone Renewers coming out recently, and the general idea is you have great level 2 all-in kill combos, and you're very good with the Aerie, and also the E actually adds a lot of attack speed to your duo early on. So it's really good with this sort of on-hit builds, especially with the Kalistas we've been seeing a lot. You have great engages later into the game, you have great utility going into it, and honestly, I didn't expect that, but it looks like you have a lot of kill threat just at level 1 too.
Yeah, I feel like with the Rens, you just have so many options to just go in, and the poke that you get with the Aerie is actually insane. The AP ratio on the flag is really high for someone, because obviously, traditionally, Jarvan is not someone you would, you know, put into that kind of category of someone who will be building AP scaling. So they just kind of made it a little bit higher. It does, of course, give you extra attack speed as well. And you can see Tarzan, Leanne, and Hong. It's actually kind of a 3v3 here. Fofo gets jumped on, but he's the one who's jumping on top of Icon, who's forced to back away. No real mana here for the Azir. He's going to have to reset, as he's already popped all of his pots. This is a bit of a skirmish here. Everyone just kind of posturing for position around this very small objective.
Yeah, I don't think this is one that Rare Atom, can actually win out on. So they're going in. The Scuttle does, of course, go over, and Icon has already teleported. Maybe he's going to find a kill on Lo Yin.
No, the undertow missing did mean that Lien was able to get away. He has to expend his flash. And now we can see iBoy and Light going toe-to-toe. But the flag and drag is there. They'll get the knock-up. And this is the danger you have. They land the hook. Light isn't really there to kind of support his support right there. And he will fall down, going a little bit too overzealous. Cleanse instead of heal means there's just nothing in helping the Jarvan.
Very well done by Rare Atom, but I'm a little bit surprised that Iwandi actually took that trade. If you look at the river, they had full vision of Hong. So this wasn't a Thresh coming out of nowhere and landing the hook. This was a Thresh that was on their mini-map the entire time. But unfortunately, they still do fall down to him, and that will equalize a lot of the pressure going into the bot lane. We see iBoy picking a kill back up. He has his lane in a good position, and he's also equalized the farm too.
Alright, calm down, LNG and RA. We want to talk about the game. We want to talk about this. I'm not even going to get a chance because Tarzan over this top side. We mentioned this at the start of the game. Cube needs to be very respectful of this combination. He lands the undertow, probably going to force the flash out of the big fat man. No! Not able to get the flash out of him. He keeps it in his back pocket, but he's going to have to use his teleport to get back to lane.
The fat man has a big heart. He even knows that they don't have the damage to kill him. Nikuya, of course, didn't have any mana for the follow-up there. And this is what we typically see out of the matchup early on. It's that the Gragas can actually bully out the Camille quite effectively in early levels. The Camille really doesn't become a split push threat until that second item of the Ravenous Hydra. So, this is what Rare Atom probably planned around all this time. Again, we're going to take a look at the bot lane skirmish. iBoy, even though he fell down first, did get a really good trade early on onto the Kalista. Hong comes in, gets into a perfect position, puts himself between the Kalista and his backline carry, so there's nothing much that Light can actually do to trade any more damage onto iBoy. Iwandi falls, and they equalize the bot lane.
Okay. Can we talk about the game, LNGRA? Can we? But I did want to mention a quick kind of setup here is that we are seeing a lot of early game trading. The reason for that, I feel, is that LNG are kind of on a timer. The Kalista will only go so far into the early game. Once you hit about 3 items on both AD carries, that's when Aphelios really starts to accelerate much quicker and much more dangerously into that late game, and that's where LNG are really going to struggle. Also, Kalista just notoriously is a very short range carry, someone who has to be in your face, and the longer this game goes on, the less and less you want to have your AD carry in the thick of things. So they need to make this laning phase work for them, and that's why we're seeing so much early game skirmishes from both sides.
Yeah, definitely. I think both of these compositions are really just about shutting down iBoy's progress. Rare Atom want to defend iBoy with their priority coming from mid-jungle, while LNG want to shut them down with this super interesting build of the Olaf and plus the Jarvan combo coming into the bot lane. So we are going to see a lot more action heading there. I definitely think that's going to be the case throughout this entire game. But I do want to talk a little bit more about this Jarvan pick. I think it's super interesting that they're actually pairing the Azir with this Jarvan as well from the mid lane. One of Jarvan's greatest strengths as a utility champion and as a support is that he actually maxes the E, the flag and drag, the flag out first, the Damascene standard, and this ability gives you extra attack speed for all of your teammates surrounding you. So the Azir is going to get a massive buff to his DPS because he mainly uses his auto attacks on those sand soldiers, and this is going to be a very unexpected power spike, I think, coming out from LNG. Their mid 2-item spike is going to be very deadly, and with this Kalista and her Ren capabilities, this is a team that could definitely look to make a Herald play or make a bot swap into a surprise Baron.
Yeah, once maxed, I do believe it gives you 30% extra attack speed.
It's really high.
Is it 50?
Yeah, it's pretty bonkers.
I will let you triple check that one there as we talk about the rest of everything goes. But we see now Leanne taking the Mountain Drake. That's going to be first objective to the side of RAs. They're already starting those dragons, despite the bot lane perception that they would have the advantage on the side of LNG, so still getting that one set up for them. We can see the Iron Spike Wick picked up there for Tarzan, so he's working towards his Gore Drinker. Sheen up at the top side here for Makuya on this Camille. And Dragus is something we've seen quite a lot into the Camille matchup, because it is something that can just absorb all of these early trades just because of his passive. He gains so much healing from that. He's able to stay safe. We can see it there. Just builds a lot of health, which is the perfect resistance when you don't really know what to resistance against. So we can see Icon forced away from this mid lane wave as Hong just keeping him in check, keeping him honest.
Just making an pretty interesting roam here. I love these roams coming in from the support. Your bot lane is holding the wave. You don't really have much to do there. And just try to make sure that Icon has to drop his wards down into the top side of the map just to make himself safe. Love those maneuvers. And I also want to say, Penguin, you were correct. It's actually 30% extra attack speed at max range. Woo! It's still a lot of attack speed, but they definitely nerfed it from what it used to be.
Yeah, it used to be an awful lot higher. I think it was back when the first iterations of Jarvan support became a thing, where you just basically gave it massive attack speed steroid. Still a massive attack speed steroid, but just not as ridiculous as we can see Hong throwing in a hook blindly as Iwandi walks towards this mid lane. Just as a quick note, Iwandi will most likely have that maxed out E at around level 9 if he goes around the kind of standard route of leveling up. I think if you go like E, Q, E, and then, you know, basically every single time you can level up the E, you go for that. Should be level 9 by the time he gets that. So we're waiting on to see what they can do there. Now, Rift Herald has been started. Gold is dead even. No one's really finished any major items, except for the chem tank, or the turbo chem tank for Liam, but I don't think they can get anywhere really near this. And the TP coming down to the bot side to soak up that wave as well. And that's a good rotation from LNG. They're able to pick up the bot wave, they're able to pick up the Rift Herald, and they don't really lose anything in the process. Yeah,
this was a very interesting play from Rare Adam. Essentially what they were doing is they were doing a preemptive defensive lane swap. They wanted to make sure that LNG couldn't just strip their top lane tower. And we have to remind everyone that this is LNG's bread and butter play. What they love to do is they want to swap preemptively, kill the enemy top laner, and just snowball the first tower off of that. So Rare Adam are doing a very well studied play. This is probably something they got from the footage. They swapped to the top lane, but they didn't do it to contest. Cube didn't have his teleport there, so it was going to destined to be a 4v5. Instead, they leave the Herald alone, they make sure they show up top, and they take away the instant Herald play from LNG.
They recognize that they, as you said, did not have the global pressure. They could not respond in kind. Plus, as we've mentioned many, many times, the early game kind of does belong to LNG right now. They are the ones that have the Callista, they have the Jarvan, level 6 for him, so the Cataclysm is available. If you're able to lock up iBoy, Leyen, or even Fofo, or any of these kind of carries that want to try and jump onto the Callista, you could do a lot of work for your team if the Callista is just able to free fire. So it's going to be onto RA to make sure that they recognize those engages and to stop them from really happening. You can see with 3 people into this mid lane, they're just trying to see if they can get anything going for them as the junglers and support just swap like ships in the night. You're now taking care of top side, I'll take care of bot side.
This is super interesting to watch from Rare Adam, and actually they will come out ahead of these trades just because they have their full minion waves pushed in both side lanes before they actually initiated the swap. So they have the tempo on their advantage, and they're continuously denying the pushing power from this Callista and Jarvan lane. They're just making sure that you can't drop the Herald right in front of our towers.
Yeah, they're reacting very, very quickly to any kind of push forward, but when you're covering all the side lanes, that opens up the mid lane to a little bit one there, so they should be able to get some turret plates here onto Icon, so he'll get 300 or 160 gold, as 160 goes over to his jungler, so they will get at least something out of it, and it's not, they didn't lose anything for it, so it's still an advantage.
This is what I would usually call a dry Herald. It's just a drop for 320 gold. You don't get anything more with it. You don't get pushing potential. And if you're just swapping all your bot lane and getting all your members towards the Herald just to get 320 gold, it usually isn't worth it. We can actually see a good CS lead for the Aphelios, but the mid lane action is actually just going to fizzle.
Yeah, I feel like Liam being very respectful of a Gore Drinker Olaf, and of course Tarzan. Oh, as I say, that great flash Cataclysm down there on top of him, but there's a fantastic culling. He doesn't need to be in range if he's got that available to him. They lose the Ignite and the flash from Fofo, but he gains himself a kill.
lot of damage coming out from the Lucian, and a little bit unfortunate right there. Iwandi wasn't able to body block for his mid laner. They actually get a kill in a 2v3 situation, and this should lead into a very easy dragon.
Yeah, the pop of ward down the bot side, but Tarzan is nowhere near this. And Icon, he's going to be kicking himself for that one. Feels like it was just a little bit of a misstep there. The idea was solid, but just not really setting up the pieces correctly, and it does end up going as a kill to Leyan on this Udyr, who's had a pretty, I suppose, quiet early game, but that's kind of what you want as the Udyr. You're there to build objectives. You're there to be an annoying wall that just runs at carries in those mid to late game team fights, and with the Turbo Chem Tank, he is kind of becoming that annoying wall.
I just want to say, though, Rare Adam's early game has been very, very good for them. You know, let's take stock of all the major points that they want to keep ahead. The Aphelios is up in CS. He rebounded from the kill that they lost early game into the mid lane, and they're also sitting on a two Drake advantage here against LNG's solo lanes, who really want more time to play out the game. You know, Azir and Camille, they want to be hitting their second items before they really think about joining these big team fights. So Rare Adam setting themselves up for a very, very good next 5 minutes into this one, and I feel like it's going to come down to LNG's sort of pick potential to kind of break that trend. They have to use the Shurima shuffle, and they probably have to get Iwandi in on some of a good pick here to stop the momentum.
Good trigger discipline there from Light, recognizing that the Graviton will only keep him in place for so long. Gets himself out. He's got himself a Vampiric Scepter alongside that Doran's Blade, so his lifesteal to sustain is pretty good right now, as iBoy is going to keep pushing in this wave. Now with 2 dragons, it's unfortunate for RA that it is a Cloud Rift, so not the most highest priority is Cube. And Mikuya going to be trading away some slaps, and this is kind of what we expected. The Gragas shouldn't really be feeling any kind of major pressure because he actually can put down the Hextech Ultimatum on top of the Explosive cast, and they just back away. It's a very even trade either side.
Definitely is for both of these players here. I don't think we're actually going to see any kills in the top lane. Some good mechanics coming out from both of them. Mikuya able to dodge out on the Explosive Cask with his own ultimate, but actually still takes him into range for a tower shot right there. So, you know, we are going to see sort of this wet noodle fight go on, but it should be heading into Mikuya's direction slightly afterwards. He does have the Divine Sunder. He's going to be able to go toe-to-toe. And the biggest thing about Camille is that she just scales way too well with the Precision Protocol. That true damage coming out that does transfer the Divine Sunder empowered attack into true damage as well is very, very damaging, and it scales with levels into the late game.
Well, let's have a look at those items right now as we have a bit of a lull state for probably another 2 minutes and 20 seconds until that Dragon is taken. Might see something at the Rift Herald, but we'll wait and see if that does happen. But Divine Sunderer versus a Frostfire as well. We see the Gore Drinker and the Turbo Chem Tank. No first item completed here for Icon, but you have got an Immortal Shield Bow for Fofo. So you can see now this is the sort of small item disparities that are kind of popping up right now because Icon had to go towards that Seeker's Arm Guard to get that early armor to make sure that he wasn't being completely bursted out. It delays that little bit of a spike. Immortal Shield Bow in the bot lane for Light versus the Kraken Slayer for iBoy, so he's well on his way to becoming a scaling teamfight monster. And this is where I feel like RA, they're going to start to find a lot of advantages. They're the ones that are kind of dictating the pace right now. It feels like LNG, apart from those first few early skirmishes, they're kind of acting proactively rather than reactively. No, sorry, the opposite. They're playing reactively than proactively.
Yes,
that was what I meant to say.
I felt like you got that backward, but I get the gist of what you're trying to say here. I think Ray Adams' next few plays are pretty easy to lay out. They have the Herald advantage. And, you know, that Herald is going to last into the Drake, so probably a very simple fork down into the mid lane. Make sure that Fofo and Lillian can get into the river first. They have the setup. They can close down this Raptor ramp with the box. And, you know, they should be able to snowball into a third Drake quite easily. The ball really is in LNG's court to see what they want to do. And like you mentioned, this Kalista really isn't going to scale that well into the late game at all, so they do have a little bit of pressure where if they don't make use of the champion, she's not going to show up that huge later in the later phases.
Yeah, it becomes very difficult for her to really do anything. You can see Leyan, he's just running as fast could be. The one positive from the Cloud Soul is that he gets the Cloud Rift, which just opens him to be so much quicker at taking all of his camps around it. He almost can take them all before they respawn again, which is insane when you think about it. Right now, 15 seconds until that Cloud Drake. LNG are rotating towards that bot side. Top laners both have their teleports, and all summoners are available. Ooh, Iwandi gets himself out just about. But now RA, they are the ones that have control over this middle river towards the mid lane and bot side. They are getting a push from Light, though. TP used by Icon into the mid lane to make sure he can get that push. And this could be a pivotal fight for this game for both sides.
Lillian still has not dropped the Herald, and it's actually LNG that makes their way into River first. Mikuya also gets a very good trade onto the top lane, so this is a super tense moment. Both of these teams really want to get this Drake, stop the Drake stacking on the side of Rare Adam, and it looks like LNG are going to go for a bit of a mid lane push and force Rare Adam to basically choose if they want to stay in this river or not.
Here we go, Cataclysm in, but there's a hook shot as well. They're trying to jump on top of Fofo. They have got the Hextech ultimatum. He lands it on top of him. He can't get out. Not even the Dark Passage will bring you out. It's Iwandi for mid lane, but now the Camille is dead. You have your 280 carries available. The Shurima Shuffle is there. They have the Gore Drinker Olaf pushing in on top of everybody. So many low health bars. Lian will finally fall, and Icon just about keeps his life. It is a fight for LNG that they will come out on top of, and they will stop the dragon stacking.
That was so well timed from Light's Fate's Call and Iwandi's engage. Iwandi did not have a perfect timing right there, so I thought he was gonna die instantly as he went in, but they get the Fate's Call when he was on a sliver of HP. They still get the Cataclysm there. They keep everyone on that very uncomfortable ramp position. They're able to close in with Tarzan, and they walk away with the entire team fight. It was a little bit unfortunate because Rare Adam didn't need to give up the Drake right there, but I felt like the later half of the team fight where iBoy goes in again was probably a little unwarranted. Let's watch the Iwandi engage. Remember, no perfect timing. He actually gets out with less than 100 HP, doesn't die, and even forces out the ultimate from Cube. So that's a massive win right on the start of that one. Also, the flank coming in kills Fofo instantly. I'm really not sure about this one for my boy. This one for me was, it's probably a little bit much running into an Olaf like that, especially when you don't have your summoners up. So I felt like if they didn't do that move, they probably still could have dragged out the fight and not given LNG. They might still lose Drake, but they probably wouldn't lose bot tower like that.
Yeah, they don't equal out the gold. There's now 3,500 each. The Rift Herald has to be popped into the mid lane prematurely before it can hit the tower. And you can see RA trying to just escort him in to get a good charge off. He will get it and bring that down to about a third of its HP. They won't gain anything else out of it, and the later Rift Herald is definitely worth a little bit less, I feel, than the early Rift Herald because you don't have those plates to garner from it. Now the ball is in LNG's court again. They got the fight in bot side around that dragon pit. They've stopped the dragon stacking, but not only that, they got a huge injection of gold into the the Callista, into the Olaf as well. So they now have the Runan's Hurricane on top of the Immortal Shield Bow, and all of a sudden, it's Light who's ahead of iBoy.
Definitely does seem that way, and right now I think Rare Adam, what's interesting about their item setup is it looks like Fofo is going to be going for a scaling and side lane split pushing Lucian. This is something that we haven't really seen before. We have seen a couple Lucian mids. They've all been going Gale Force in the past into things like Essence Reaver, but right now we are coming up to a build that is very strong in lane. He did go the Immortal Shield Bow with Overheal onto the laning phase, and he does have that scaling option in his pocket with the Mira mana, so he's actually going to be doing a lot of damage into the side lanes. But my only question is, can he actually face up against the Camille? Because if you can't do it against the Camille, essentially you can only split push against maybe the Azir and the Light lane. So that's a interesting build that we haven't seen before, but we have to keep track of it and see how it actually does against the 131 potential from LNG.
Well, mid lane turret does go down, and the reason why that one is so important is it opens up the map. It opens up the jungle and top and bot side, makes it a lot harder for RA to keep their vision control around their, their own half of the map. But for LNG, they're the ones that are going to be finding those picks or looking to try and find them. Actually, curious to see here, Icon rushing the Morellonomicon second. So going straight into that, not going for the Zhonya's with his Seeker's Arm Guard, and just relying on that kind of, passive armor that he's getting from it.
I think it's a decent option right now because of the healing coming out from Gragas, Lucian, and the Phalios. So there's a lot of healing that you want to be reducing on the enemy team. We have seen a couple of just sitting on the Oblivion Orbs, but of course if you finish the entirety of the Morellonomicon, you do get that 60% grievous wounds. A little bit better than just the 40% with the Oblivion. And I think, again, this next couple of minutes is going to be just playing around the Drake and making sure that Rare Adam can kind of use these picks that they have and the burst potential. They have an earlier presence here around the map. I want to see if they can actually make some use of the explosive cast to maybe find a pick here.
We'll see. Very important to note that Icon's flash not quite up yet, neither is Lights. They try to jump in Hextech Ultimatum on top of Leyen, but a flash away from Makuya. Explosive cast doesn't really gain anything. They get a couple of health bars low. Now you can see this massive unit that is just RA running straight in. They try and jump in with the belly bop and they go golden for Iwandi as the real fight ensues. Here's the Shurima Shuffle, but he can't get it off. Icon was stunned. He couldn't get the perfect move off for himself, and then it goes disastrous for the side of LNG, but RA capitalized. Leyen survives, and they don't care about the dragon. They may just go for the Baron.
That's just a straight huge win for Rare Adam. They have perfect positioning for their teamfight composition. iBoy was sitting on the ramp the entire time. Nobody was touching him. And when Icon finally went in, it was a great stun, I believe, coming out from Lillian to make sure that the Shurima Shuffle couldn't find its target. So Rare Adam, with their double AD carry composition, they're able to pick up a very easy, uncontested Baron.
That was so unbelievably clutch, because I feel like if Icon can get that Emperor's Divide off, if he can just knock all of that backline right into the hands of LNG and he's not even touched, there is just so much room for him there to be able to just shred through health bars. But it doesn't go that way. Great move from Leyen. I do want to see the replay of that after the Baron goes down. Second Drake goes up to LNG, so they are still miles and miles away from a Cloud Soul point. And LNG, they're trying to just push out the waves as best they can, get as much gold into their pockets, and they're now down 2,000 gold or 2,500 gold. I'm
just a little bit surprised at how haphazard LNG decided to gauge in the first place. They really get punished for it. Lillian goes in. They know they're missing a lot of ultimates. Their HP bars aren't looking that good. And this fight really is all about iBoy's positioning. He's sitting there on the ramp. He's very, very comfortable. No one is actually touching him throughout the entire thing. He only gets bounced by the Shurima Shuffle, but doesn't even really touch his HP bar at all. They get to win the fight. And I just wonder what the main impetus behind the call for LNG was in that mid lane where they try to go in, but they're doing it again.
They're going in again. Hook does land there onto Icon, so he has to flash away. They will pick up the kill. TP coming down from Rare Adam, but the fight is already dissipated. They've lost one of their Baron buffs. They do gain a flash out of Icon, but you'll take that delay if you're on the side of LNG.
Yep, a really good pick on LNG's part. They also make Cube use a pretty useless teleport. He could have taken this top bot lane tower down already. They still will get the objective at the end, but it definitely slows down their tempo, and now they only have 1 minute left on that Baron buff.
Ooh, big mistakes here from LNG, and I feel like Icon, he's got a bit of jitters right now. It feels like he's kind of getting caught by these things, not really respecting the the distance that he needs to be at. Those hooks, those belly bops, those bear stances from Leyen, they are things that will just, if you're caught by them, you will die. There is no if, buts, or maybes unless you have your summoners available, and right now he doesn't. He's lost his flash. He won't have that for their potential dragon fight in 3 minutes. That could be the differentiating factor between, LNG winning a fight and LNG losing a fight, but for RA, they're scaling nicely. They've almost got the infinity edge here for iBoy. They've got 3 items onto Fofo. They are looking like they're going to be able to kind of just shred through these team fights because it's a much more easy execute in terms of front-to-back team fighting.
Yeah, definitely is the case here, and I think LNG are running out of options. We said this in the draft phase that no team really wants to scale alongside the Aphelios. It's just a losing proposition from the get-go, and there's a lot of protection here for him. He has the Shurelias to kind of move back. If he ever gets tagged by the Hextech Ultimatum, I expect Cube to hold on to his ultimate and make sure that he can just bail iBoy out by bopping Mikuya away. So it's very easy for Rare Adam's teamfight to just play around him. And unless LNG are able to find rare instances where their 3-man dive combo can just kill iBoy at the start of the fight, it's going to be very hard for them to win anything. Oh, that damage.
You see already, yeah, the damage is starting to stack up here. Fofo is on the Lucian as well, and yes, you're very, very much stacking on top of the AD damage, but it doesn't matter if you're just absolutely shredding health bars, and before they can even get close to you, and having the Calirum available to iBoy will be key in these siege moments. And this is what makes Aphelios such an incredibly diverse and versatile carry, is that because of the amount of guns he has, because he can swap between CC, sustain, the just pure shred, the distance, extra distance on his auto attacks, he becomes so much more difficult in how you approach a fight, because depending on what guns he has, that's what you have to do. That's where you have to look and how you are going to go for it. Does he have short range, long range? Does he have CC? Does he not have CC? These are things you have to think about, and sometimes in the second or two before a fight, you just don't have time.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I think in these team fights, his main gun of choice should be looking for the Severum. LNG do have a triple dive composition that can disregard crowd control quite easily with the Olaf and the Hextech Ultimatum, so I think the Severum should be the main choice for him. But for right now, as long as he plays super safe, as long as Cube is constantly looking at iBoy's position, it's going to be super hard for LNG to find any purchase.
And they drop down the Shurima's Legacy into the mid lane turret to stop any kind of a push. We actually do see the Zhonya's Hourglass picked up for both Icon and Iwandi. That is pretty standard for a Jarvan support, considering he is just running into the back line and hoping and praying he doesn't die, being as much of a nuisance in a CC bot as possible. But with 16 seconds into this Cloud Drake, you can see LNG, they're running out of time. I feel like they need to take this fight, because if it goes any longer, they're just going to be too far away, too far ahead in terms of for RA for scaling, for them to really do anything about this. Now, with Dragon spawning, they can shred this one completely. But LNG want nothing to do with it. They want to try and push up mid. They have got the inside track, but they don't really have the minions.
I don't think this is a winning play from LNG. The Baron isn't up. They don't really have any pressure in the top side, and frankly, Rare Adam could just disregard them.
Oh, explosive cast does bring Mikuya down to about a third of his HP. Leia running in, trying to see if he can be a nuisance. Has the bear stance, does use the smite to slow some people down with the chilling. They all back away. Dragon goes over to RA, no one else dies, no one blows summoners, and we're gonna wait until most likely Dragon Soul or this Baron in a few seconds.
Yeah, Rare Adam are in a very demanding, commanding position here with that 4K advantage. And it really just goes to show you the difference between scaling in the Aphelios and the Callista. The last we checked on the gold graph, Light was actually still ahead of iBoy. He actually had more gold, he has more CS here, and he even has a bounty. But you cannot feel the existence of this Callista in these team fights compared to Aphelios on 3 items.
Yeah, 3-item with an Executioners as well to just stop any kind of sustain whatsoever. Your double lifesteal build here for Light on this Callista is going to be very, very muted, is probably a good way to put it. Even the Gore Drinker and the Ravenous Hydra will have a much more diminished effect. So we can see Iwandi just trying to throw in the Demacia Standard. Leanne being as annoying as possible, just running at people. And that's all he has to do. He's on 3 items, full armor. He does not care about Icon in this game. He is just caring about Tarzan and Light, and he's going to try and jump on them as quick as possible, land the bear stance stun, and just try and keep his team alive and keep them in the fights.
We do have LNG on the map first. The Baron has already spawned, so they will have this sort of vision and positional advantage over the Baron. I want to see if they try to draw Rare Adam out a little bit. If we remember the first fight that LNG actually won, they were able to catch Fofo out of position, instantly kill him, and then snowball the rest of the fight. This time again, they have a lot of vision dark spots. Let's see if they can find anyone.
Oh, explosive cast knocks everybody away. See the top left, there's a ward there. They could go for a little bit of a TP flank if LNG. They did not spot that, but it's going to be a full 5v5 just at the moment. Here we go. They jump in, Cataclysm down on top of iBoy. Iwandi goes golden. They're trying to take down Leanne. They're trying to see if they can bring him down. Iwandi will fall. They can't kill the Bearman. The Bearman is just too tanky. They have too much damage. They can't shred through these health bars quick enough. Fofo gets knocked into the team, but with these double 80 carries, he's straight into the dead arms of light, and everybody is fallen. It's a massive team fight win for RA. They lose 1, they gain 5, and they're going to be able to take game 1.
LNG wanted to go in because they saw the explosive cast was already used by Cube, but it wasn't enough. The Cataclysm goes down, and iBoy didn't even need to burn his flash to get out of that. He actually just used the Dark Passage incoming from Hong. Great positioning coming from the Thresh support. He pulls iBoy out of danger. The Hextech ultimatum actually doesn't even land onto the Aphelios, and he gets to dish out free damage the entire team fight.
Great execution there on the team fight from RA, and they're even picking up some extra kills on the Fountain, but they will take game 1 and move themselves 1 game away from a much needed positive scoreline for them. Great win.
Really clean game coming out from Rare Adam. I'll be honest, this game for me felt like LNG kind of shot themselves in the foot by going into the scaling war and selecting the Azir too early on. They went into those champions and then they thought to themselves, wait a minute, we're playing scaling against Aphelios? No, we have to change our game plan. Immediately, they go for the Callista and
you can't just load bans into Fofo anymore. This RA squad is showing that they have got the moves, the players, the caliber to be able to pop off in multiple different roles. And even the likes of Cube up on that top side was doing very well into Makuya, despite being on something that's as passive, if you like, as the Gragas, able to absorb the pressure, didn't give away any advantages. And this is kind of the small little strengths that are coming out for RA into this game.
Once again, they are banning out the blue side, the weak side blind pick champions coming out from Makuya. That has been his best role. He's a great defensive role player, but probably not as proficient at the offensive side of the coin. I don't think his Camille was anything to write home about. He didn't really find great engages in the previous game, so I like Rare Adam here, just forcing Makuya to play a more aggressive side of the map.
More aggressive side, we see the Aphelios and the Kai'Sa banned away, alongside the Pantheon, the Olaf, the Renekton, and the Gnar, but Leyen has been looking very comfortable on the Udyr, and they think that warrants a first pick.
This is super interesting because what LNG are doing is that they're kind of dangling the Samir pick here. If they don't pick it themselves, Rare Adam are very happy to go into that one. There's a lot of mind games with this pick because Samira was iBoy's best champion in Demacia Cup, and they banned it the entire way through, throughout the entire LPL Spring Split season. He hasn't been able to play that champion. LNG wanted to test Rare Adam, and a lot of times players, when they don't get that pick for the entire split, they actually become less proficient on it. So Rare Adam did step up to the plate, they did lock in the Samira, and now LNG are actually able to walk away with a red side 1-2 punch of Alistar and Samira. You almost never see that in the draft.
Yeah, 1-2 punch straight away. They want to give Light and Iwandi some kind of impact. They want to give someone who can make plays. And Iwandi on this Alistar, we talked about at the top of the show, is something he can make plays on. But on Fofo, he had the pick of the litter. He had no bans thrown at him, and he decides to go towards that Azir into that mid lane.
So we are seeing Rare Adam go for a more scaling mid lane champion. And this Gragas with the jungle already selected right here, it probably is going to go to Cube as well. So Rare Adam are looking like they are playing for more zone control. And what we've seen is that if Samira doesn't get snowballed, her late game teamfighting is actually quite weak. She doesn't really have the range, and her Infernal Trigger actually slows herself. So it becomes very difficult for her to continuously kind of get these kills and get these teamfights going. I think Rare Adam are just trying to play the late game against LNG's really aggressive bottom early game.
Yeah, it feels like the early aggression is going to be the port of call. Once you see LNG picking up the Ornn, something that's kind of fallen out of a top priority favor in a lot of the teams around the world. Ornn's still very powerful, of course, has a lot of utility to bring to the team, as well as just general stats with those upgraded ornaments. And Now we get to see what RA and LNG want to try and focus on. You have the top, jungle, and mid picked it. Well, you could technically put Hong onto the Gragas, but we are pretty much assuming that Fofo will be going onto that. Or sorry, not Fofo, excuse me, Cube. And most likely going to see some bans into the jungle role to try and keep Udyr on top of his game.
Yeah, I think just looking at the drafts right now, Rare Atom are setting themselves up potentially for a Senna pick. Senna has been a very strong counter into the Samira. You outrange her, you have that upfront root that really prevents her from dashing onto you, and you can just walk away with the Shroud of the Dark Mist when she tries to pull her Infernal trigger. So that has been a really strong pick. It has great scaling, it has good range on it as well. The only question in my mind is if the Senna can actually deal enough damage to the Ornn. That's going to be a big question. Senna typically doesn't do that well against just full armor front lines here, so we're going to see if that's going to be the champion selected by iBoy. In the meantime, LNG are looking for a mid-jungle combination right here. Icon has a lot of champions. I do want to see him play something rather aggressive. You know, we think of Icon, we think of champions like Echo, like LeBlanc. Those were really his highlight moments. But he's so toned down this split, I'm not sure if he still has it in him to kind of take up this laning challenge and try to play aggressive with his early game.
Well, we just see the Hecarim locked in here for LNG, so they are looking for big, big team fights. Look at these ultimates and the combinations you have together. The Inferno trigger, the Ornn Horn, the Onslaught of Shadows. Of course, Makuya going, or not Makuya, excuse me, Iwandi going in with the Alistar, headbutt pulverized combo. If you're able to land on top of someone, they're just in the air forever. There's nowhere for them to go. There's no way for them to react. And that's going to be a big issue for RA. They need to keep themselves safe. Now, the Tristana and the Azir, very, very safe hyper carries towards that late game. And if they do lock in this Aatrox, someone else who becomes a bit of a raid boss towards that mid to late game team fight.
Rare Atom are doubling down on the fact that they just want to outscale LNG. Well, this is what I wanted to see from Icon exactly. His LeBlanc is legendary. He had one of the best plays of, I believe, 2019, where he 1v4'd the enemy team on this champion. And I was thinking, what would Icon pick? He's been picking just control mages nonstop this split, but when you have a Samira that needs to snowball, I think you have to match your power spike. You have to go for something that's early, that's aggressive too, and we're finally getting a taste of that old bad boy Icon champion pool.
Getting him on something he's far, far more known for, and something he can make plays with. That is the big, big importance. Now you've got a little bit of a flank to look out for now from the side of RA, but for RA, they've got themselves the Gragas in the support, the Aatrox up on the top side, so a lot of safety in there, a lot of tanky boys, and they're kind of going, again, with this tried and tested for them at least, front-to-back team fight.
LNG are setting themselves up for a very strong front-to-back, like you mentioned, and they also have a super strong bottom side in general. LeBlanc should have priority over the lane against the Azir, and the bot lane of Samira and Alistar should force the bot lane of Tristana to play very defensively as well. So what I expect on the map is to see Rare Atom kind of play into Cube's lane a little bit more. They do have the priority on the Aatrox versus the Ornn matchup, and they also have a much stronger early game with the Udyr against the Hecarim as well. So I think top side is where Rare Atom is going to play around, and for bottom side, it's all LNG.
So talk to me, we are going to jump on the rip, but talk to me about this Hecarim pick, because it's been something that hasn't really seen much prevalence around the world. It's not really been something, despite there being a farming meta and kind of getting to 6 in your first item, why haven't we really been seeing Hecarim pushed up towards the meta?
I think Hecarim is a bit of an awkward champion in that his main use in drafts is as a combo piece. You usually see him paired up with Orianna, but he doesn't really have a great early game. That's kind of the issue that he has. It's that he really wants to wait into the team fight, but he doesn't really have anything to buffer him before that. So you typically see him being left behind, and he also had a really expensive item build. Previously, we usually saw him go for the Triforce. Now it's a bit more Divine Sunder that we've seen Triforce's ADs go down. But, he's just kind of awkward. He's really slow to get going, and he also requires a lot of gold for his build to be complete. So he's just caught in that sort of awkward situation where if he doesn't find a good pick early and kind of snowballs the game from the start, he doesn't really get going at all.
We'll see if he is able to get something going for his team, as he's going to be starting off onto this blue side. There is a ward, so they know exactly where he's going. There's a ward onto the Raptor camp of the RA jungle, so that as soon as the Udyr is there, he should be pretty well found out. Doesn't need a leash for Leyan. He is on the Udyr. You start off with the Tiger stance, then you, generally speaking, will max the Phoenix stance and the Bear stance, and then finally into the Turtle. You leave that Tiger stance a little long, because your role is not to fight. Your role is to be annoying, and your role is to clear jungle as quick as possible.
As an Udyr, you typically do like the least damage on your team. Even supports out damage you most of the time, but it's just so fun. It's like, I don't do damage, but I'm constantly living as a nightmare for the enemy team. Like, they always have to think about me coming in and finishing up skirmishes. What we've seen in the LPL is that Udyr, a lot of times, even if he arrives late to the 2v2, just the strength of the champion allows him to go in for more.
Well, speaking of going in, the level 2 is hit by iBoy and Hong. And that level 2, Tristana, again, seen as a big hyper carry, but is something that can just turn on a dime at level 2. That, you know, rocket jump on the W, excuse me, is just so powerful at that early stage because of the stacking damage you can get on top of it. Explosive shot, that's the word I was looking for. And it's something you have to respect. No summoners burned from Light and Iwandi, but they are being pushed well back into their turret.
This is pretty well done by Rare Adam's bottom lane. If you look at their items, they definitely prepared themselves for a very defensive start. But since they saw LNG give their jungler a leash, they knew that they could push the lane early. They didn't wait for the enemy team to come back or any level 1 potential coming out from LNG from the brushes. So they just pushed, got the level 2, and that's really going to take away a lot of time for this Samira to find advantages and to find those snowball kills that she really needs.
Well, we see full clears from both junglers, and both junglers now on top of their respective scuttles, and something that Hecarim has, he's actually got a pretty decent clear time. Like, keeping up with Udyr is no small task, so definitely something to be proud of on there. You can see there just popping in a ward. You can see the ward pretty much identical on the opposite side of the map. So both junglers pretty much just mirroring each other in this early game.
I do want
looking towards the sorry, go for it. You go for it.
I do want to point out the build incoming from Lillian. We typically have been seeing a rush for the Bomby Cinder on Udyr for him to just farm up, but for him going for the early boots of Ionia does signal that it's going to be a more gank-focused early game for the Udyr. It's not something that helps us clear a lot necessarily. The Bomby Cinder is definitely better at that role, but with the boots of Ionia, he should be able to go into teamfights, be able to control the map a lot better. So I want to see how he actually uses this item pickup.
Yep, extra bit of movement speed, of course, very, very valuable alongside your own one. You can see him there. He's just very quick to get himself into different parts of the map, and needs to be a little bit careful that he doesn't get caught out. They are putting down question mark pings, but with that Phoenix stance and the Tiger stance and a smite, he should be able to take out these Raptors very, very quickly without any real delay. And that is a stolen camp, but you can see already in the bot side, they are seeing if they can go for something on Fofo, who is low on mana. Icon is around. He has got the Dark Seals. He was able to pull that one out. Leyen jumps in and realizes there's a prancing pony coming at him, so he has to jump himself out. And Tarzan will just find, unfortunately for him, his chickens have been stolen.
Yeah, it's just hilarious watching this Udyr run across the map. He's already achieving 450 movement speed on his bear stance, just walking around, and he is going to find a bit of a CS advantage, almost 2 camps up now against the Hecarim so far, and he has his full bot lane to clear. So far so good on the side of Rare Adam. You know, they're continuing to scale up with the Azir and the Tristana, and they also found a very good timing to go for this Drake. They know the pathing of Tarzan. You can see the pings on the top side. They definitely expect him at Krugs, so they know this Drake is going to be uncontested, and that's huge for Rare Adam, because if you look at LNG's bot lane, they should have the advantage there.
Yeah, they do see the Ornhorn coming in. The knockback here, Cube forced to flash. They do not have the Onslaught of Shadows, as Makuya does get the knock up. Those sweet spots are landing. Cube needs to be a little bit careful. Do they go for the dive? I don't think they can. Tarzan taken very, very low. They got out just before they got punished, and they do get the summoner out of Cube. So overall, it's still a very, very good play for the side of LNG.
The nerves on Cube to turn back and face that 1v2. He knew his limits perfectly, and he was just willing to trade damage and make sure Tarzan was going to go home for good. Stands his ground, gets Mikuya and Tarzan down to half HP, and, you know, picks up the minion wave too. So, really good response to that 2v1 gank.
Yeah, we can see here Lien stealing more and more camps, being more of a nuisance, and with the pure kind of information you get, the resources that you're able to find, because knowledge of where the jungler itself, vision itself, is a you are able the jungler is at all times. That is a huge resource of information that you can use and make advantages around the map for yourself.
You don't have to guess if you can play aggressive or not. You know you can play aggressive, you can abuse your champion windows. The thing that most people don't realize is most pro players know when they have the advantage in lane, but they hold back just because they don't have full information on the jungle. So if you know where the enemy jungle is, it opens up those trading opportunities that you can finally utilize.
Yeah, you'll generally see the pro players pop off in solo queue because it's not as high risk. They can go, you know what, I can go off on this champion right now because I just feel like it. Whereas in pro play, like you just mentioned, it's very much a check to see, look before you leap is probably the best way I can put it. But now, looking at the state of the map, you can see half items being picked up. We almost have the Triforce here for Tarzan. He's not farming terribly, but again, against the new deer, it's very difficult to keep up to that big bear man. He's already got a level lead above him as well, so Leon doing very well at just making sure that these global objectives will very much be in his favor going forward, unless Tarzan can start making things happen around the map.
I feel like this is very much a Tarzan champion. The way he plays is very farm oriented. He's not really a fast tempo jungler. He doesn't really go for things like the Pantheon. But the problem with the Hecarim and LeBlanc combo is I feel like LeBlanc is wasting her best years here. You know, she does have some priority over Fofo, but she isn't able to really find kills, and with Tarzan just, you know, more indexing into the farm, I don't really see this LeBlanc getting off to a good start. So the snowball necessities from LNG not really being taken care of here.
Well, both supports and junglers around this top side. This could be a 3v3. Teleport is not available for either Fofo nor Icon. You can see Cube backing away. They flash in. They get the Onslaught of Shadows. They get the knock up, and he is taken down. Iwandi taking that kill. Good proactive play from LNG. They get themselves first blood.
RA had a lot of guesses around the top side. We saw the question part pings go down, but they didn't expect it to come so fast. So unfortunately, they do roam everyone here into the top lane. They don't really prevent the play, and it looks like LNG will be able to take 2 turret platings plus the Herald for their troubles.
And they don't lose anything in the bot side either. Now the Herald is being started. You have not got TP on Cube, so he's going to have to walk here. Doesn't have World Ender either. As they start to see one. Iwandi could go for a little bit of a play here. Icon is there. Alright, they are trying to posture around it, but I feel like they know they're just at a disadvantage. You can see there on the minimap, Cube roaming towards that bot side. They put their Boy Tristana into the top. They know they can't really go for this, and this is a good proactive play from LNG. They get the kill, they get an objective after the kill, and that's what we always look for in a team.
And Rare Atom are left to scramble and try to defend against the Herald drop here. They, like you mentioned, they had the Tristana in the top lane, and we have talked about this in pregame that LNG's bread and butter play is going for that first tower. They love to give first tower gold over to Light, get him accelerated, get him that first mythic, and then just snowball the sieges from there on out. So I like what Rare Atom has been doing this entire series. I feel like they've definitely looked at a lot of the videotape of how LNG plays. They always have their bottom lane in position to defend against the potential tower strip.
For Icon, just as I notice here, he's being bullied away. Already 15 CS or so down onto Fofo, who's just kind of pushing him back, constantly making sure that he's kept in check. Not allowed to roam like a LeBlanc wants to. Like you mentioned, that they're wasting her best years in this mid lane because the first item, Power Spike of the Luden's Tempest, is where you want to be, and on top of an AD carry that could be a massive advantage for them. Does land the Ethereal Chain, but Fofo, he's on the Azir. He can just stream shuffle himself out of there.
So, not really a lot done here in the early game, but I think LNG are moving into a phase where they have a lot of chances to snowball. They do have the teleport advantage for this Drake fight, and they also have the Herald as well. So I think what Rare Atom want to do now is they should accept, hey, you know what? The Herald's going to come down, you guys are going to get 320 gold, but we're not giving you any champion kills. You can take the tower plating, but we are not dying. So I expect Rare Atom to play super defensive in the next couple of minutes. Just make sure that they continue to keep the snowball out of the picture. Maybe not.
Ooh, speaking of it, Icon gets jumped on and stunned up by Leia and has got his flash still available to him. That Phoenix Dance will do a hell of a lot of work. They've got the TP coming in here from Makuya. The Onslaught of Shadows will give Icon a kill. Makuya trying to readjust as quick as he can to get the knock up onto Fofo. We will not land the Oran Horn. And now just pushing in the wave. They do lose a couple of summoners, but they gain a kill. So again, small advantages that keep this gold even.
This is the exact opposite of what I cautioned Rare Atom to do. I wanted them to sit back and just, you know, don't play too aggressive right here. Don't give any kills over to LeBlanc. They're the aggressors in that play. Tarzan was still around the map. Makuya had the teleport advantage. And if I'm LNG, I'm very, very much pleased with what's happening right there. I get summoners, actually don't get that many summoners, but I do get the kill finally onto Icon, and I do get him on the board a little bit closer to that Luden's Tempest, like you were mentioning. Now just looking at the fight again, Fofo doesn't have to expend his flash right here. They do get the summoner advantage from both Tarzan and Icon, I believe, in this fight, as the Azir does go in with quite a bit of damage here. But at the end of the day, I still feel like LNG are pretty happy with that play. They do find that 300 gold onto Icon.
Yeah, honestly, you take that win there, you take that little bit of an advantage, and I actually liked the TP, not because he got anything from it. Yes, it was just very much kind of, I'm here now. It made Fofo double guess. It made Fofo kind of think twice about whether or not he wanted to go on to two very, very low, health targets in Tarzan and Icon, which meant they were able to secure the kill, and they didn't lose that much up on the top side. So, Icon now pushing it onto Fofo and just chunks it down to half HP, and this is where the LeBlanc starts to feel a little bit unfair. This is where the LeBlanc starts to feel like not really something I want to be dealing with in this lane, as two plates are given over to Light in that bot side as they give him a dry held. Ooh, nice cheeky move there from Fofo.
Going forward instead of backwards and dodging out on the Mimic Distort coming in from Icon. Yeah, keeps himself alive here. And in the top side, we do see Cube, like we were talking about. Aatrox does usually have the priority in this lane, able to sneak away parts of Tarzan's jungle. Once again, Tarzan's pathing this game has been figured out very, very well by Rare Atom.
Yeah, they've had full knowledge of where he's been at all times, which has led to a couple of camps being taken away from him, which has actually led to a 40 CS lead for Leyan. Only a 1 level lead, as he does have those 2 little kills, assists even, for Tarzan, so it's keeping him in touch. This is where you mentioned it at the start of it. I asked you about the Hecarim. Why do we feel like he hasn't really kind of found himself into this meta? He just feels a little awkward right now, and this is kind of it. He needs to get those kills, and yes, he's gotten 2, but just with how far behind he is, it feels like he should be getting more. And curious actually to know your opinion. You've gone with the Divine Sunderer over something like the Triforce into the Hecarim.
This is much more common in LPL Hecarims. The item is a little bit cheaper, and now with the change to Triforce giving less AD, you definitely feel a lot better with the Divine Sunderer empowered auto attacks rather than the the Triforce that is much more of a bruiser and auto attack stacking champion. Triforce is probably a little bit better for things like Jax, but it's a lot worse for mainly AD scaling champions that used to want to build it.
Divine Sunderer finished up. Some deep vision in the top side for LNG. And a minute until that Ocean Drake spawns. Both teams at 1 apiece. We'll see if they want to try and fight over. Gold is pretty much dead even. Mythic's pretty much finished across the board. Sorry, support's not on that salary. But, Immortal Shield Bow, the Kraken Slayer for Light and Eyeboy respectively. You've got the Sunfire Aegis and the Gore Drinker for the Ornn and Aatrox as well. But with all the top lane deep vision, they have got themselves full knowledge of where the Hecarim is not, and that means he is not on top side, which is a free Rift Herald.
I still think that LNG, despite their gold disadvantage and the fact that Lillian does have a Herald right here, they are still at the strong point, their strong point on the map. They have champions that at this phase of the game with 1 Mythics, they function a lot better than Rare Atom, where their champions really function more around those 2 and 3 item marks. So I think LMG should definitely try and just go hard on this one, try to get Rare Atom into a fight. And, you know, I think if Rare Atom take this, they have to be very careful because this is a massive snowball point for the likes of Light and Icon.
Yeah, the dragon is secured. Icon goes in onto Hong. Jumps back lane, just running at them at the moment, try to slow them down, keep them interested, but they were not able to get a secure position for Cube to teleport. You can see him on his minimap. He roamed down through the enemy jungle to try and get his teleport advantage in his favor, but alright, we're not able to find any purchase on that. They drop the Rift Herald into the mid lane instead after losing the dragon, and they're going to try and take this tower as low as they possibly can.
I think both sides got what they wanted out of that one. They do pull LNG out of position a little bit. They get a couple of uncontested waves on the top side for Q, and they also drop this Herald. So, you know, I think both sides got exactly what they wanted. Rare Atom a little bit more of the minion gold, while LNG did get that Drake for their troubles. It's still the point about just securing the snowball, especially for this LeBlanc. You know, we have seen this matchup. It's not a purely scaling game on the side of Azir. When LeBlanc does get her 2 items, a lot of the times she can just trade half your HP on the Azir without getting touched at all. So there does come a phase where I feel like Azir is going to have to play super defensively into this matchup and give LeBlanc's time to shine.
I'm looking at RA as well, just as the CS differentials they've picked up. They're pretty much winning in every single lane. They are winning in, not even pretty much, they are winning in every single lane. They've got 20 in the top side, they've got 40 in the jungle, they've got 20 in the mid lane, they've got 10 to 15 in the bot lane. This is why the gold has been so close, because they are even just in their favor, despite the kills going over in favor of LNG. The fact that they're able to make up those numbers of kills in, or just in gold from the CS, just shows you how well they've been playing these matchups and not just bleeding out objective after objective. They're gaining stuff as well.
I think the most important thing about Rare Atom's CS lead is that they never entertained the team fight. They just don't want to let LNG snowball, so they left the Herald 5v5, they left the Drake 5v5, and they only looked for exit kills. They didn't try to go into and run and contest LNG when they were at their strong point. So that's something that we don't see from a lot of LPL teams, but you can definitely slow the game pace down by doing this and just picking up farm.
Curious to see what the Gragas will be building, as he has picked up the I can't remember the name of it, the mirror. I can't remember the name of it now. It's the one that builds into the Bando Glass Mirror. Thank you so much. I'm curious to see how they will build towards that as we go into the game. Definitely seeing a little bit more healing from Hong than maybe a tanky boy. He's looking for kind of his explosive cast and his belly bop and then trying to get out as quick as possible.
The change on Shirelia's battle song has been that you actually gain AP now for the item. They want to differentiate it from the Turbo Chem tank. So most of our Gragases in the LPL have been actually going for that. It just gives you that burst of 60% movement speed. You actually have very good ratios on your Q and R early on. So it just helps you get around that map and find picks onto the enemy team. I do expect that item to be the mythic.
No. I have been educated. That's the beauty of having a color caster beside me, because I can ask these questions and you will tell me very quickly why I'm being an idiot. But again, looking down the middle, you can see there Mythics being picked up. We're looking at a Phantom Dancer here for iBoy on the Tristana, looking to try and just keep his crit going, getting him to 3 items, 4 items. That's where the Tristana really does shine, getting those resets with the rocket jump as well. And we're probably not going to see anything for another minute as I say that. As soon as I say that, Cube gets jumped on. They do land the Ethereal Chain and get the World Ender and the TP out of Fofo. Tarzan may have to use his Onslaught of Shadows defensively, but with the rest of LNG roaming down, they do not feel like they can go for it. They gain a TP. They don't really lose anything apart from this mid lane. They're going to be able to set themselves up for this dragon fight, but it's not quite just over yet. Leyen trying to run away, gets knocked up. Flash in the explosive cast just to try and keep him alive. They will knock him up again, but he's just a tanky boy. Very difficult for an Ornn to take him down. While this is all happening, you can see Tristana, iBoy in the top side, just pushing and pushing and pushing, being as a nuisance as possible. Light's recall has been stopped as well. You can almost imagine that Light is just about on his second item. He needs that before this fight.
The man bear pig reigns supreme. Rare Atom get 2 towers and LNG get nothing. They try to go for the bot lane 2v1 against Cube, but I'll be honest, I don't even think Cube would have died. Even if Fofo didn't go down there. I was watching Cube's HP, and he didn't even pop the Gore Drinker. He was just standing there, and he was like close to full health. So I feel like this is LNG getting desperate and still not getting rewarded for any of their plays.
Yeah, it felt a little bit overzealous for them on the bot side, a little bit overzealous in the mid lane as well, which means they didn't have the flash, they didn't have onto Iwandi, they weren't able to get Light to reset to pick up his collector, which you can see he's just finished up now. They will pick up this top lane turret, so they're getting that to keep the gold as even as possible, but now with the Drakes at 2 apiece, it's not really feasible to kind of look towards that win condition of a soul into an Elder Drake, because it's so far away.
Yeah, they don't really have the tools to force Rare Atom to actually go into a team fight against them. So let's say if LNG wanted to play around this LeBlanc, they set up blind spots on the map around this Drake. What Rare Atom could do at this point is just completely ignore the dragon. They just say, okay, we'll go to the other side of the map. And LNG won't have an ability to snowball off of that. So the cards are really in Rare Atom's field right now.
And
yes, thank you very much. And, LNG don't really even have a split pushing option either, so they can't really control the map as well as Rare Atom can.
No, Rare Atom testing their limits there, seeing if they could go for a 2-man Baron, and just showing to LNG they didn't really lose any HP off that, as Leyen was just so tanky, and they just able to put down such consistent DPS with Fofo, with the Liandry's Anguish, and of course the Banshee's Veil. He is, once he finishes up that Nashor's Tooth, a massive threat for just completely obliterating that objective. The reason why we say that someone like Azir is such a late game kind of carry is his soldiers just create such a great way of burning down objectives. Things like the Baron, things like the Drake, they are just gone in 2 seconds if you do not respect that. And for such a low kill game, it's still a 2,000 gold lead here in favor of Rare Atom as they look to try and just make something happen for them around the map. They're fine just kind of waiting for this someone to kind of fall into their lap.
I think this is the point where it really does come down to whether or not Icon can find iBoy in the back of a team fight. Right now, we already have Fofo on the Banshees. He's going to be very difficult to tan down, but they do find Leyen.
Leyen has been brought down to about a third HP. Onslaught of Shadows just bring him down just about, and Light collects him. Now we have Cube. Did use the TP to get him into position, but with the jungler dead, can LNG make anything else happen?
Super weird position from Leyen. I actually, when the camera panned over, he was already in the enemy jungle. He was up above the ramp for some reason. So I hope that we get a replay of that one, how Leyen actually got caught out there. But great find for LNG. They get another kill onto their important carries. And, having the summoners away from Hong and from Leyen is going to help them find those picks later on.
We can see the Blood Ward, the upgraded Immortal Shield Bow for the Samira. Light able to get that one there. This is where the extra little bit of gold efficiency you get from the ore, and he's able to pick up these levels. He's level 14 now, should be level 15 very, very soon. And once he's able to get those upgrades going for your team, that's where they give those extra little things, especially in something that we don't really talk about that much, is supports generally only pick up one item, and it's their mythic. So if you're able to upgrade that, you're just giving them a much better stat on that particular item. So I do like that sometimes. It feels a little bit nicer for supports who right now, on their particular salaries, just can't afford anything else.
We have been seeing most of the players in the game only get 3 items. Like, actually, most of the time it's like 3 items, you don't get 4 items, and a lot of games actually end at 2.5 items. So, getting maximum efficiency is incredibly important right now, and you know, LNG are going to try this again, round 2.
Yeah, they're going to go for Cube, but this time they have set up the CC a lot better, seeing if they can get Cube's flash out of him. But the Baron's been taken down. LNG have committed 2 people to here. They have got the icon very, very low. Baron goes down. That's just a straight-up objective for RA, and Cube should be able to get himself out. Why are we looking at this fight? We should be looking at the top side. They take it, and they lost the Heck Room. Oh, LNG, why are you overforcing that?
They don't really have an option at this point. I still wish that they would try to play their front to back. I mean, Ornn and Alistar is still a great front line, and maybe you could find some poke, but this is the low percentage play. It was very, very close to failing the first time they tried Icon and Mikuya against Cube. And for the second time, I still felt like Cube did a very good job. His stat line might not show it, but his defensive play has been the MVP this game.
And let's have a look at what happens here. The explosive cast lands, goes knock Tarzan away. He goes in with the Onslaught of Shadows. He's just too late. And now he's dead to rights. He's no way of getting out.
Yeah, he's running the ghost, so can't get over the wall. Goes down onto that one. And Rare Adam are walking into this fight with a very, very strong advantage at this point. However, Cube is so far away that I'm not sure if they want to engage.
That was very close to resetting there. Lien running in with the chem tag, trying to get as much damage down onto Mikuya, who's just being shredded. That is the tankiest member of LNG, and he's gone. Fofo just bringing him down. You can see with the 3 items now onto this Azir, just becomes impossible for you to stand and fight. The Baron buff's still ticking for another minute and a half. They've now put themselves onto soul point for LNG. But RA, without that big engage coming out from the Ornn, it's going to be very easy for them to just siege up on these towers.
Rare Adam are playing so damn confident. They actually took a 4v5 there. LNG didn't know when Cube was actually going to arrive on the scene. They just leave their top laner to die, and now it's in dire straits for them to finally find that pick onto Icon. We need to see if Icon can find a chain onto iBoy this game. I'm not asking for much, but just I need to see Icon at least find one chain.
He needs to just find, as you said, a primary carry. The Banshee's Veil makes that very difficult to land it on the Fofo. So your only real target is iBoy. You have to find out the Tristana, but with the rocket jump, it's such a I suppose a difficult ask. It doesn't sound difficult, but what it is, it's just so hard for him to really get on top of this carry and make any kind of meaningful damage stick.
He is the banana boy, so it should be very, very slippery.
Boy.
Do you know why he's
the Sultans?
Do you know why they put him in
the banana boy?
suit?
I don't.
Oh,
why do they put him in a banana suit? Educate me, oh great Clement Chu.
I'll be honest, this is probably one of the boringest memes ever, but he's just constantly eating bananas at the base. Mako actually gave him that name. They just call him Banana Boy.
Mako just decided it. Banana Boy.
Banana is a power food, so I respect it.
I am intolerant to bananas. Did you know that?
Oh, me too.
I cannot digest them. They are something that I am not allowed. It's very funny. I quite enjoy the taste of banana flavored things, but I cannot eat bananas.
Well, so I hope you still
my
find
cross to
iBoy
bear.
cute.
Yeah, well, iBoy is iBoy, and iBoy will be very, very happy with how he's played this game. Just incredibly safe, very tempered game. The Banshee's Veil knocked down here for Fofo, but look at this. Mikuya being just peppered down so much. The Leandri's Anguish is just so powerful at bringing him down to just about half HP. Now, Baron is off. 2 minutes 30 till the Ocean Soul. That will be LNG's to try and take. Don't know why they're trying to aggress into this top side as much. You just probably give up this tier 2, defend at your inhibitor, because your bot lane is starting to be pushed in.
Yeah, we're seeing LNG having a lot of trouble actually finding in the engage. They're a bunch of short-range champions, and they're going to try the just pick on Cube strategy once again. Let's see how long it takes them.
He's just healing for so much. They will take him down. Tarzan will get that, but what do you lose? Your two tanky boys can't clear this wave. Your beefy boys are just going to be left there to be turned into the slaughterhouse if you stay around too long. They get themselves, the base has been broken now again in that top side. Mid lane is still streaming in with a couple of minions. They got super minions there as well. 1 minute 45 until that dragon spawns. That is the big objective. Cube will be up. He will have his TP as well. You can see pretty much all the important summoners will be available. That would be the last fight for LNG. They have to try and find something there. If they don't get the dragon, the game's going to go too long, and in my opinion, they're just not going to have a chance in hell of coming back.
I definitely agree with you. They're just so outskilled at this point. They try to go underneath Rare Adam's composition. They try to play around this Samira pick. But we have to remind everyone, LNG is actually the slowest team in the LPL. Their game pacing has been at a snail's pace. And this is definitely something that they're not used to. I don't think they have... honestly, I don't think they have the capability to play a high-tempo game. They're much more about macro rotations and being efficient on the map. So I just felt like they didn't try enough things in the early game, especially from Tarzan. I felt like he was constantly just being tracked around in his own jungle, never really found a gank into the lanes that was actually successful, and LeBlanc and Samira just never got going this game.
Gonna quickly give a bit of trivia. What is the Divine Sunderer upgrade called? Do you know?
The Divine Smasher?
No, it is just the Dayside.
I tried.
D-E-I-C-I-D-E.
Is that to kill a god?
And one last... pretty much.
Okay.
One last one. Luden's Tempest. Eyeboy! Oh, so close. That's 2 summoners down. That's huge for this dragon fight in 10 seconds. That is actually massive. A massive play from Icon.
Yes, Icon finally finds his target, and LNG are going in on the fight.
Yeah, they had to get Eyeboy some extra HP. He has got the lifesteal coming in from his Vampiric Scepter. Now the dragon will be started up. You can see Iwandi trying to find himself around the back of this pit. He wants to try and find the flank with Icon, but Cube is wise to their plays. Cube is not allowing that one to happen. Now, dragon has been started. The mid lane is pushing in. Teleports are available, so there could be a backdoor. Here we go. There's the explosive cast. They find out Iwandi, but that is not the target you need. They get the knock up. They get the kill down onto Leanne. There is no more jungler there. Eyeboy gets jumped on with the onslaught of shadows. Icon is there. He's trying to see if he can get any more of an angle going. Eyeboy is fearless. Eyeboy jumps in, and Eyeboy jumps out, and jumps again. They've got everything. They don't need the dragon. This is what I was talking about. The mid lane is being pushed in by the super minions. They can TP in. Fofo can just play keep away, and RA will take this game. They are able to push this one. No, they're not able to get it just yet. The inhibitor has respawned, and now Iwandi is here. Shut down onto Eyeboy as this fight has continued. Cube trying his best to take down this inhibitor as quick as he possibly can. Fofo has got TP available, can look to try and join this one. Cube running away, trying to stop Icon from catching him out. If he overcommits to this, Fofo will be there, but they do not get anything else. They could have ended the game. The inhibitor saves it for LNG, but they will lose the Ocean Soul. So now it is 3 apiece as we go later into this game.
That was such a close team fight. You know, Eyeboy actually bringing it back for them. Icon trying to find an exit kill. Doesn't really get it. We should get a replay of that one, but really, I'll be honest, Eyeboy take it away, but Eyeboy give it back. You know, he nearly cost his team the game by burning the double summoners, getting in the team fight, but he brings the entire team fight back by jumping over Icon and still finding his targets early. So this is Rare Adam being pulled out of position early because Eyeboy had to lifesteal. They do a really good job of making sure that Icon can't find purchase into this backline, but when things really start to get heated, Icon still finds his way regardless. He's able to go in and just zone Eyeboy out from this one. Tarzan also does a really good job at the start of this one to keep Eyeboy under crowd control. That was a very long crowd control duration, and I thought the fight was over here. I thought LNG was going to be able to mop things up, but no, Eyeboy goes in, he gets the kill, and then survives another day, jumps back out again. So that really swings things back in favor of Rare Adam.
And this game is getting to the point where gold leads really don't make any big difference at all. Everyone going towards 5 items, 6 items. That's where they're trying to end this game. You can see Voidstaff picked up here for Icon as he picked up a hell of a lot of gold. And actually a hell of a lot of gold, speaking of which, went on to Iwandi. You saw him pick up 750 shutdown onto iBoy. But now the Baron, this is being melted. Oh my god, there's nothing he can do. Tarzan doesn't even know it's going down. He has to try and get into the pit, but he's too late. The Onslaught of Shadows, he was too far away. Now, do you have to go to this fight? I think if you're LNG, you just kind of have to do it. But with the World Ender proc, that Raid Bros at his cube on this Aatrox, and then Liang can just run into the enemy team, being as annoying as possible. Iwandi with the Hex Splash, trying to find iBoy, trying to find some purchase. Liang will die, so it's now a 5v4. The damage dealer is still very healthy, very alive here for Rare Adam. They've lost one, but they are still looking like the stronger of the two teams. Big death timers coming in here, but with the Baron buff, they might be able to just end the game.
That was such a critical kill from LNG, able to snipe out Lillian. I believe it was Icon coming over the wall that finished off that play, but that gives them the numbers advantage and definitely the respite that they needed. If they didn't find that one, I'm pretty sure Rare Adam would have just walked into their base and started taking down all of their naked inhibitors, but because of that snipe coming in from Icon, they do get to stall out and keep their base intact.
This is a 36.5-minute game, and it is tit for tat. 6,000 gold for Rare Adam, but again, like I said, these gold leads mean nothing. There's a lot of standing gold here for LNG. Iwandi is behind iBoy. Very important to know, as Tarzan chunked out, so is Makuya. Icon jumps in. The Onslaught of Shadows has to be used defensively, but here's Cube. He's onto the backside. The explosive cast is not dropped. They're trying to see if they can catch out Light. Samira goes in, but goes immediately down. The LeBlanc is dead. Light will follow. Rare Adam hold. They do a tempered game, and they will get a 2-0 against LNG.
Everyone just tries to jump at iBoy. I felt like I was watching a John Wick movie, but, you know, he's able to dodge out all of those bullets. He's able to find the headshots right there. Samira couldn't find him. Icon misses the initial chains, and Rare Adam are going to close down on a very strong performance over an LNG team that is ahead of them in the standings.
They will be equal in scoreline, but with this 2-0 win, Rare Adam will go ahead of LNG as they both go to 4-3, and what a way to end the year.
Rare Adam are on the up and up. They are looking forward to the Era of the Ox. They just took down WE and LNG in quick succession. Both of those series actually just being 2-0 matches in their favor. So we are seeing this explosive team now with Lillian coming back into the jungler main starting position really shape up and become a powerhouse.
Yeah, 3 series win streak now for the side of RA, and for LNG, it just felt like they didn't really know what to do. It felt like they got Icon going, but then at that point, we saw just how much damage the Tristana and the Azir can do. Icon tried his very best, but there's only so much you can go for in that particular situation, and LNG, they started off the split very well. They'll now end in terms of before the break 4-3, so they still have themselves 9 more games to go. They need to come back after the lunar break with renewed vigor, with renewed passion, because this kind of style of game, it feels like teams are starting to figure it out.
It definitely does. I really like the way Rare Adam handled the bans this entire series. They just constantly banned away Mikuya's rather shallow champion